You're on 94.1 FM, 3WBC, with Jerry Guirguis presenting...
Downtown, everything's waiting for you. Downtown.
And now here's Jerry Guirguis, 94.1 FM, 3WBC, the voice of the Inner East.
Hang around and let your problems surround you. There are movie shows downtown. Maybe you know some little places to go to where they never close. Downtown, just listen to the rhythm of a gentle bossa nova. You'll be dancing with them too before the night is over. Happy again. The lights so much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares. So go downtown, where all the lights are bright. Downtown, waiting for you tonight. Downtown, you're gonna be alright now.
Hi and welcome to 94.1 FM 3WBC with Downtown and Jerry. Tonight I've got Ruby Boukabou, author on culture and travel, also known for taking tap dancing classes and performing on stage and theatre. You can always catch up with Ruby regularly in Australia, Europe and North Africa. Tonight we're talking to Ruby about her latest book, The Art Lover's Guide to Barcelona. Now, previously Ruby published The Art Lover's Guide to Paris, The Architecture's Lover's Guide to Paris, and Sense in the City. With her latest book, with Ruby's latest book, you can peel away your questions about Catalan capital's most famous artists, such as Pablo Picasso, Joan, Miró, Salvador, Dalí, and Antoni, Tàpies. I'm sure Ruby's going to correct me on that. The Art Lover's Guide to Barcelona is really a handy visual guidebook with secrets behind Barcelona's artistic allure. Hi and welcome once again, Ruby.
Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you. I can actually see you this time. It's lovely.
Well, thank you so much. I know you're a busy girl out there. You're about to go to Europe, and we'll talk about your travels very soon. It is always nice to catch up with Ruby. Can I just start by asking, how did the city acquire its unique and thriving art scene? Ruby?
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, there's a big question and there's a lot it's to unpack, but there's a whole chapter in the book about the history of art in Barcelona. But basically, the location of Barcelona is perfect for a crisscross of cultures because it's between the mountain and the sea. It's got influences coming up, through the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean had so many different influences coming via the port. It's close to France. It's not that far across the sea to Africa. So it's a really good spot to have influences from many different cultures. Going way back, and of course, there are rock art. You can go and see the rock art, the original rock art in Barcelona, which is amazing, and it was very famous for its the art in the churches also, which is beautiful. The Romanesque art that you can go and see at the huge National Museum in Barcelona. But then, of course, after Franco, that's when it's really become famous for being a spot for artists with, as you mentioned, Picasso, who was not born there, but he developed his artistic self and personality there because he lived there for a long time. And Miró, as you mentioned, was the Miró Museum is one of my favorite places to go in museum in Barcelona, and his art is large scale and beautiful and surrealist, and then, as you mentioned, also people like Tàpies, who are creating things with wool and sand and kind of democratizing art, saying that, you don't need to be rich and famous and educated to be able to make art. And so there are a lot of different artistic movements that came out of Barcelona and that was, and ever since then, it's been a very artistic city. Even to today, there's a lot of street art, a lot of contemporary art, and people have kind of an open and very, very open sense of creativity. And when you go there, you'll find very big scale, very prestigious art, but very cutting edge and cool and underground stuff at the same time. So you can cover lots of different levels. And as I mentioned, the street art scene in Barcelona now is really amazing. You can just walk around and you don't need to go to a museum to see art. It's on the streets.
Ruby, I want to congratulate you. Sincerely, I want to congratulate you because I mentioned your previous books, The Art Lover's Guide to Paris, and I remember talking to you about that. And then you went and created another, produced The Architecture's Lover's Guide to Paris. And then you followed that by Sense in the City, if I've got the chronological order right. Mm-hmm. And now you've got one, because I remember talking to you just a year ago, exactly February last year, 23. Now, within a year, you've got this fourth book, The Art Lover's Guide to Barcelona. How do you do it?
Well, they take about a year to do. I mean, a lot longer than a year, because I've been researching and knowing the places and reading about them and visiting them for many, many, many years. But it takes about a year to research and then go there. In this particular book, I particularly enjoyed going to, because Barcelona is a place that's close to my heart. It's the place after Paris and Bordeaux that I know the best in Europe.
Yeah.
And I used to go there every summer, as you know, to do the tap dance festivals.
Yes.
So while I was there for the tap dance festivals, I was meeting the locals, meeting the artists, making creative videos. And then so it was a very good excuse to go back and dive into that scene. So yeah, so it was really fun. It took a long time, obviously, because it's a book, but I really liked this book in particular because there's a extra series. There's chapters on meeting the artists and in-depth conversations with the artists, and that's Paris. I loved doing the book, and it was great. But this was even better because I would go to the homes of the artists and meet them and spend time with them and have dinner with them, and that was what made it really special. Getting up close and personal.
I'm privileged to have a look at the e-version of your book, and thank you so much for that. And it's really detailed. And we're going to, I'll ask you a question later on, who you went and interviewed, because you've mentioned not only did you interview them, you've actually spent some time with them and had dinners and gone to their places, which is remarkable. It's really a nice way of doing things, because
it makes it more authentic.
Yeah, well, it does, and you're getting close to the characters and coming out with it. It's very impressive. The ebook that I looked at is quite a big thing, but it is handy when you're traveling, especially these days. Anything that's on the ebook is easy to have and read, because I was rather taken by the book as being something that I'm going to take to bed tonight and have a read. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. And this is what I'm very happy about, because the whole idea of the books is that you can take them to Barcelona, or you can vicariously visit Barcelona through them. And when the first reviews came out, because the book was published a few weeks ago in the UK, and then it's coming out in Australia and America in a couple of weeks. And one of the first reviews came out saying the book is an experience in itself. And I'm like, yes, this is it. You got it. So the idea is that, yes, of course, you can take it to Barcelona and use it as a travel guide, but also the book takes you to Barcelona from wherever you are. And those interviews with artists are really a very special part of that. And the photography, there's 120 photos, I think.
Yes, that, and I honestly, I was reading and I'm going to read it as a book, because all the experiences in the book are there. It's like I'm reading chapter after chapter, and then I'm going to go into other things. So congratulations, and that's my simple opinion about it.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
much. It's so good. Can you you talked about booking an art classes, and what we've seen locally here in Melbourne, a lot of art places are popping up everywhere, and you go past these shops, and there's all these people sitting there and having an art class. Can you book an art class or a street art tour?
Yes. So there's a chapter in the book on how to take an art class. And unfortunately, I don't have the book in front of me because it's on its way over from the UK at the moment in a plane or no, on a ship. It's on a ship actually. And it's so there's a chapter on where to take a class, because I think it's really nice if you're having an artistic weekend in Barcelona, not just to go to the museums, but to actually, you don't need to be an artist. Just go and take a class, and it's so rewarding. I went to there's a place called Arti Wine and Arti Bar. So they have, or Arti Wine Bar, ARTE, and it's fabulous. So you go and you they give you wine or water, whatever you want to drink, and a few snacks, and you've got an instructor. You do one painting, and you're following the instructor, and he's teaching you. You've got 3 hours, which sounds like a long time, but it goes very quickly, and he guides you how to do your painting. And then you come home with this canvas. I have it here. I brought it all the way back to Australia, and you're really proud of it. And it's such a nice, rewarding experience. So I would really recommend people to go and do a class at Arti. But also the instructor, I ended up interviewing him because he's also obviously an artist, Hector Rodriguez, and he so the instructors are really interesting, and it's a really fun thing to do. I went by myself, but other people were in couples and with groups. There's also a French woman called Manon, and she does a ceramic class. You can do a Gaudi style class, and there's also street art tours. I did a street art tour on a bamboo bike.
Yep.
Which is really fun because you can go and look at street art, and there's so much in Barcelona. But I went on a Saturday morning. We went for a few hours. There were only about 3 or 4 of us, I think, on my tour, and we just rode for an hour and a half and stopped, and the guide explained to us the history of there's the Keith Haring mural. So there's murals that have been there for a long time that are actually commissioned, and then there's others that change every day. So that's fascinating. And so in the chapter on that, people can go to the sites and actually book the tours, and they're really good things to do when you're in Barcelona.
That's the best part about the book as well. Now, I just want to move on to other things like you mentioned how and where places you can go and have a succulent Barcelona meal. The question I have for you, you're not going to get arrested after you have you've tasted a succulent Barcelona meal, are you?
Hopefully not. No, you're not going to get arrested. Well, no. But there are, I mean, of course, the other wonderful thing, apart from the art in Barcelona, is the food. You can go and eat at all hours of the day. It's weird. I come back to Australia and people say, oh, do you want to have, I had to review a restaurant, and they're like, sure, I book you in for 6. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because in Barcelona and in France, we eat at around 9:30. In Barcelona, it's 10:30. It's, but the food is, tapas, it's who can not like tapas? It's really nice. But no, hopefully you won't get arrested unless you do some illegal street art.
I think I'll book a succulent Barcelona meal when I get there. Just looking at the time, you talked about people you've interviewed, Ruby. Barcelona best artists, museum directors, and curators. Which one actually stood out the most?
Oh, I can't. I will have to name a few of them because they were so good. The very first person I interviewed on my first morning in Barcelona was the director of the Miró Foundation, Jean Miró Foundation, and Peter Daniel. And he's originally from Germany, but he worked at the Tate Museum in London, and he's a visionary director. And it was just his passion and enthusiasm and knowledge about Miró and art was just, it's kind of got my research off to a kickstart. And then he took me, so I did an interview with him talking about Miró, but the importance of his art and the importance of art in general. It was so inspiring. And he took me for a guided tour, a personal guided tour around the museum afterwards. So that was a really good way to start the tour, the research. But then also the artists were, I actually stayed with an artist, Catalan Robinson, who's an artist from New Zealand, who's a friend of a friend. So he does very interesting, oh gosh, I would describe his work, but I prefer people to discover it for themselves. So there's a chapter on him, you can discover his work. But he then introduced me to other artists. I also interviewed Peter Churcher, who's an Australian artist, who was the son of Betty Churcher, who was the director of the National Museum in Australia. And he does figurative painting. He does figurative, hard word to say, figurative.
It is, yeah.
Peter Churcher, yeah, he does figurative painting.
So he lives in Barcelona?
He lives in Barcelona. He moved there a while ago. He went for just a while and then decided that the city really, really spoke to him. And he said he just loves. So I went to his studio. I've known him for a few years. I've interviewed him several times, but I went to his home studio. So he has got this beautiful flat, large flat in the center of Barcelona. And at the end, he's got this big room, which is his studio. So he's got these big pieces of, he was working on a piece was kind of after lunch. So there were people just gathered around a table after lunch, which was based on a photo of his, but he added a character and it's so lifelike, really lifelike. And I did it. So I had a really lovely time interviewing him. And there's also Philip Stanton, who's an American artist who does these beautiful, colorful murals. And they're quite incredible. So there was him, Ivana Flores, who she crosses over between street art and urban art, and she does these kind of Tim Burton-esque girls with big eyes and flowers and animals, and it's kind of dreamlike and Alice in Wonderland like, but there's a depth in the eyes, and she was amazing. And the curator, everyone I interviewed was amazing. But it was, the best thing about it was going into their world. Like I'd go to their house or I'd go to watch them paint. And so you'd get a little bit more depth than you would normally if you just met them at the gallery.
Ruby, I'm again just conscious of the time. And and I'm really thankful for you allocating the time tonight in this after your tap dancing classes. We're very proud of our Australian Ruby, and your French is perfect. Can you speak now Spanish and all the other languages, or is that come natural as well?
Yeah, I'm working on Spanish. I'm not fluent, but I made myself work on my Spanish before I went to Barcelona. And by the end of my trip, I was having proper conversations with people, and then I'd met a few people who didn't speak English at all, and I spent the whole evening speaking not very good Spanish, but I was really proud of myself that I kind of made myself. And now I've gone back to my Spanish classes because my next book is going to be in Madrid, so it's a good excuse to get back to my Spanish and not let it go. And the best thing is just to find some people that don't speak English or French, because that's the problem. If lots of people speak French also. So you find the people that don't speak English or French, and you make yourself speaking, and that's very rewarding.
The other thing, of course, you're flying very soon overseas. Where are you going and what are you going to be doing very shortly?
So back to Paris. Back to Paris because obviously it's not as cold. The winter has passed, so it's safe for me to fly back. Hate winter. And I keep looking at the temperature on the French news. I'm like, oh, nearly.
Nearly.
So, in a couple of weeks, I'm flying back to Paris. And then, of course, bien sûr, it's the Festival de Cannes. It's the Cannes Film Festival, which is the 14th to 25th of May, and it's going to be huge. We've got Mad Max there. George Miller's next Mad Max is going to be with Chris Hemsworth. Kate Blanchett's going to be there. It's going to be a really, really nice year. So I'm going to be doing some interviews there. maybe a tap dance.
Yeah.
Before that, I'm doing a little tap. I'm teaching tap on a barge on the canal in Paris,
Right.
and we're doing a tap jam on the 5th. And then during summer, I'll be performing Parisian Time Step, our cabaret with Wendy Lee Taylor and Philippe Petit. So we'll be performing that. It's a French, it's bilingual, so it's French and English, tap dance, song, and joie de vivre on a boat on the Seine. What else could you want? Dinner show,
Exactly.
the swans go past the window, we sing, we dance, everyone has a good time. So that's what I'm doing over summer.
Well done. Well done. Thank you, Ruby.
Come over.
I will. I'll just organise that. I need to go overseas shortly anyway. So, Ruby, thank you so much for again allocating the time, and again we're so proud of our Australian girl author, and doing the 4th book. Fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, so if anyone's coming to Paris, come do a walking tour with me. Come see a show. We'll be posting stuff on the Instagram Ruby TV, and of course I'll share you all the links. And I hope you enjoy the book.
Thank you, Ruby. Good night.
Gracias. Shukran.